everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sarah. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you so much. As you know from the title of the video, I wanted to do a story time. Interesting story about the landlord from hell. Now, I know we all can think of a time when we had a landlord that was just like, wow, you are the spawn of Satan. I lived at this place back in I think it was 2008 going into 2009 or something like that. This is like 10 years ago. It was during a time when I was in massage therapy school. I was finishing up. You know those apartments that are like, they're not legal. All I needed was a room. I couldn't afford a lot at the time. So when you walk around the side of the house, you walk in and then there were 3 rooms. Technically, they were only supposed to be 2 rooms, but she turned one of the rooms into 2 so that she could rent out each room to a different person. And then you go down some stairs and there's a washroom, and then like a washer dryer setup. And then to this side, there's there's a little living area, little common area, and then to the back there was a kitchen. Now, she literally took space from the kitchen and space from the living room and then just put 2 walls and a door, basically. There were no windows. There was one way in, one way out. If there was ever a fire, I would have been screwed. I am the perfect tenant, okay? I am the tenant who pays her rent on time, every time, no issues. I don't make any noise. I'm barely ever home. I take care of the place. It's the perfect situation to have. It was an older woman. I believe she was somewhere from the Caribbean. I remember that. And a younger Indian girl, and then this older Indian gentleman, and then myself. And the woman who owned the home was Indian, and her son lived upstairs with her. So it was just her and her son was probably in his 20s or something. Okay. So included in the rent was laundry and internet, you know, basic stuff, and yeah, that was it, no problem. And I also had a vehicle. There were no parking spots on the driveway available anymore, but she gave me the assurance that no worries, just park the car in front of the house. You don't have to worry about anything. You won't get any tickets and blah, blah, blah. For 6 months, it was perfect. It was great. I did my thing. Everything was fine. And then one day I came and there was a padlock, like a lock on the washer and dryer door. The space where they had the washer and dryer, there's a door and they put a lock on it. And I was like, oh, okay. They'd never put a lock on it before. We could always just do our laundry to our leisure anytime that we were ready, and all of a sudden there's a lock. So of course, I go and knock on her door and say, hey, you know, I was gonna do my laundry and I noticed that there was this lock on the door. I wasn't really sure what was going on. And the mother explained to me that she's been noticing that her utilities have basically been going higher and higher every month. And she's trying to cut down on some of the costs. So she decided that we would only have the laundry available Saturdays and Sundays. And then all the other days of the week, she would lock it so that we couldn't use it. Now, I know my rights. The other people living in that home, some of them are immigrants, and actually no, all of them are immigrants, now that I think about it. So I've noticed in Canada, I can only speak for Canada, but in Canada, when it comes to employment and when it comes to housing, people get taken advantage of quite often because they don't know their rights and they're not from here, so they think, oh my goodness, I don't want to be kicked out of my place, which is a totally understandable fear to have, living in a country that's not your own. You have no family here and then you get kicked out. So obviously you're not going to ruffle any feathers. You're just going to do what your landlord tells you to do, and you're never going to question anything. Now, because I know better, I know that my lease agreement says that I have laundry. There was nowhere in the lease agreement that said that I had to use the laundry on certain days. It was open all the time. But I'm an understanding person and I get it. And I feel like we could talk and we could figure something out. So I spoke to her and I said, well, I totally understand where you're coming from. You want to save the money and all that stuff. The only problem is I work like all day, all night, Saturdays and Sundays. There's no way I'm gonna be able to come home and do laundry because I'm not here. But I'm off on a Monday. So could we kind of work something out that you leave it open on Monday so that I can still do my laundry? We talked about it. She said, okay, she'll leave it open Saturday, Sunday, and Monday so that Monday I can actually get an opportunity to do my laundry. Problem solved. Even though she's still in the wrong, she's not supposed to put a padlock on it. I said, you know what? Peace. I prefer peace.
Is that clear?
We had this arrangement, everything was fine, and for a number of weeks, all was good. Then one day I come to do my laundry on a Monday, like we agreed, and the padlock was on the door. I knock upstairs and her son comes down and I was like, hey, I don't know if your mom mentioned it to you, but we had an arrangement that she was gonna keep the laundry open for me on Mondays. He said, my mom's not here this week and I didn't know anything about this. So of course, he's giving me attitude already, and I never really liked him. He always gave me this weird vibe. I always thought their relationship was really odd. Just saying. So he's going on and on and on, and I've always gotten the impression that he has this, like, I don't know, grown man of the house kind of idea in his mind, that he's the head of the house and blah, blah, blah. And he basically, he opened it up for me, and all was good. After bitching and complaining, he opened it up and I did my laundry, all was good. The following week, it's locked again. So, I knock. I say, hey, guess you guys forgot. You remember the arrangement? Mondays? Yeah, today's Monday. And he basically comes down and he says to me, oh, we're not doing that anymore. And I was like, now his mom is nowhere to be found at this point. I haven't seen her. And he's like, my mom and I already decided that we were gonna keep it locked and only open it Saturday and Sunday. So you're just gonna have to change it and figure it out. I was like, no.
Yeah, no.
So now all negotiation and all talking is out the window. So I say to him, listen, when you guys initially put the lock on the door, I could have been difficult because legally you're not supposed to do that. My lease says that I have access to the laundry room and there's no stipulation that says that I can only use it on Saturdays and Sundays. This is something the two of you should have sorted out before you rented it out, before you decided to do whatever. This is one of those costs that are associated with being a landlord. So I should not be penalized for it. I pay my rent. He's like, oh, well, if you have a problem with it, then you're just gonna have to go to the tenant board or whatever. And I looked at him, I said, cool, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. He wasn't expecting me to say this, because I'm pretty sure he's bullied the other tenants before and they just cower back and they're like, oh, okay, whatever. Or they probably don't even say anything to begin with. But I knew what they were doing was wrong. So I said, listen, that's fine. If we can't sort this out, then that's what we're gonna have to do. I think my request is fair and your mom agreed to it. So I don't understand how all of a sudden now it's changing up. And I know me using the laundry on a Monday is not costing you this whole heap of extra money because it's the only day I do my laundry. So he storms off, he goes back upstairs. No, nothing. I don't hear from him, I don't talk to them. A few days later, I get a letter under my door. And it's an eviction notice.
Get out of the house! Get out!
So, it basically says, we need to evict you out of your apartment, blah, blah, blah. But this is not even the interesting part of the eviction notice. They are kicking me out due to health reasons. They need my unit. Long story short, I got everything together and I set up the hearing for the tenant board. Now, I don't know who to call this person that we speak to or see or go in front of, but I'm just gonna, for simpler terms, call them the judge. The day comes, her son shows up. Now, she didn't come to this first meeting. Her son shows up in like a full-on suit. Like, I feel like the night before or the few days before this hearing, he was probably up watching Law and Order and trying to look the part. When it was his time to talk, he basically gets up and he starts saying how amazing I am. Like, he literally, this spawn of Satan has never said anything good to me, has never been nice to me, ever. So to hear him saying all these things, not to say that they're not true, they were absolutely true. Everything he was talking about was absolutely true about me. He was like, oh, you know, she's such a great tenant. She's so understanding and patient, and you know, she's been with us and she pays her rent on time and we never have an issue. There's no loud music, no nothing. You know, he's going on, and in my mind I'm thinking, yeah. But I'm like, where's he going with this? Something. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right about that. Okay, cool. Then he proceeds to tell the judge that this is why this decision is so hard for them, because my mom has health issues and the doctor says she needs to have a space in the home where she can work out. So they want to turn my room into her little wellness room, I guess, her little workout area, so she could do that. And that's why they need to get rid of me. And it's such a hard decision. They had such a hard time with it. It was so hard, but it just has to be done. As he's saying this part of it about his mom, my eyes are literally like this, like, what?
Our case is simply this.
And I'm like, I'm sitting there doing this and thinking, what is he talking about? The judge is seeing my face and recognizing that, okay, she has no clue what this man is talking about. So he gives me my chance to talk now. And I explain that all of this stuff that he's talking about in regards to his mother's health is the first time I'm hearing about any of this. I said, I concur with everything you said in terms of how awesome of a tenant I am, because I am. And the fact that he said all of these really great things, and I'm supposed to be so understanding and so patient and so all of that, you mean to tell me that if this was really the reason he was trying to get me out, they couldn't have come to me and said, Sarah, we've thought of everything we could possibly do, but we really need this room, and I know it's inconvenient, but we're willing to help you find a new place or give you as much time as you need to find a new place and give you a good recommendation or referral or whatever so you can get the space. I wouldn't have fought them. I would have been like, you know what, it's your health, it's your house. Like, I don't want to impede on that, so just give me some time to find a place. It wasn't like this place was like the Shangri-La or something. It was crap. Like, I was totally fine leaving there. I just didn't like the fact that they were illegally trying to push me out and act like it was something else when it wasn't that at all. And then I go into the reason why they're actually trying to get me out. And I'm like, I don't think it's a coincidence that we literally had this argument and then they served me with an eviction notice. At the end of that first meeting, the judge basically sided with me. So you need to take the lock off immediately. So that was good. But of course, he's not gonna completely dismiss what this man is saying, but he's saying, all right, we need to come back here and meet again. Your mother needs to be here, and I need to see actual proof and documentation that this is something that you need before I try to kick this woman out. But for now, everything stays the same. Take the padlock off. Great. So I won that.
Take that, you winged spawn of Satan!
Go home. Think everything is fine. Think, you know what? Just admit defeat, bruh. You lost this one, okay? Fine. I don't know how much time passes, because like I said, this was 10 years ago. So some time passes. Not a lot of time though. Probably just a few days. And I come home one day. Now remember, I get home really late. I'm getting home at like 4 o'clock in the morning and things like that. So I get home, park my car where I always park it, right in front of their house, because there are no parking spots on the driveway because the other tenants have those spaces already. I get up the next day, and after living there for 7 months, parking my car there in the same spot every single day for 7 months, I wake up, look at my car, and there's a ticket. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I was talking to my boyfriend at the time and saying this to him, like, this has never happened. So I just thought it was like a fluke, a one-off thing. So I take the ticket, whatever, get in my car, go to work, come back, park my car right where it was again. The next day, I got a ticket. Now I'm starting to get a little pissed off because I'm thinking, I've never gotten a ticket before. So I'm reading the rules of the parking and everything. You can't park there at night, basically. But one day, me and my boyfriend, we had gone out or something, and we came home late, and we happened to see the ticket guy on the road. So we just went up to him and we asked him, because we'd never gotten a ticket before. He's never gotten a ticket. My boyfriend's never gotten a ticket. I've never gotten a ticket. So we just asked him, like what's the rule and blah, blah, blah. And he said, honestly, no one's really supposed to be parked here, but it's a residential area. Nobody really cares. The only time, and he said this with his own words, he's like, the only time we come out here is if someone calls us. I was like, okay, someone calls you and you come here. So a resident would have to look through their window and see my car and say, hey, considering that I'm parked right in front of the house that I live, I know it was him. So what I started doing was parking on the side street. Tell me how this kid literally is getting up every morning to look to see where my car is so he can call the parking authority so they can come give me a ticket. To the point where I had to end up parking my car all the way around the block. And this kid was still getting up out of his bed to walk around, because when you call the authorities to say, hey, someone's parked in front of my house, blah, 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 you have to give them an address so that they can verify that the car that you're saying is parked there is actually parked there. He's got to get up, walk around, and look to see where I'm at before he can call.
Seriously, don't you have anything better to do?
And for days this was happening. I was accumulating so many parking tickets, and I'm like, oh, okay. So because the judge says that I'm right and you can't legally get me out like this, you want to try and force me out. Oh, they didn't tell you about me, did they? Bullying me doesn't work. Because I will literally dig my heels in and I will go through pain, hell, and high water to prove a point. Fortunately for me, and I always believe that God's always looking out for me. So I'm like, thank God, because the place that I was working at, in the daytime, I used to bartend there, and I have regulars that come in, you know, these older guys, they come in, they have like, they drink a lot. They drink a lot, and they're drinking all day. And you get to know your regulars, and they get to know you a little bit, and I was just telling one of my regulars about all the stuff, and he has a renovations company, and it turns out that the house, one of the houses directly behind the house that I live in, his company was renovating that house. And he said, you know what, let me talk to the guy, because they know them personally, and he knows that they don't actually live there. They're not living there. And he said, let me talk to them, because maybe you can just park your car on their driveway. No one's there anyways. So they talked to them. They said, yeah, let her park the car. So I was able to park my car on the driveway of one of the houses behind our house. So he couldn't call the authorities on me anymore because I actually had a spot to park. So that was like the saving grace there. So Sarah wins again. But it didn't stop there. A few days later, I come home and I'm in my room, minding my business, probably studying or doing something because it's around final times, I think. And I hear like the radio playing or whatever. I'm not really thinking anything of it. I hear the radio in the house, it's whatever. I hear it in my unit. But it started to get weird when I was hearing it all the time. All day, all night long. I'd get up, it was still playing. I'm like, I know they're sleeping. How is that radio still on? But then what I really noticed, which was off, was that when I walk out of my unit and go into, say, the kitchen, the living room, shoot, the other units, I didn't hear the music. I only heard it in my room. Now, because I didn't want to think, okay, am I crazy? Am I just trying to make something up? No. So I got one of my other roommates. I'm like, do you hear that? So they come in and are like, yeah, it's the radio. I'm like, yeah. And they go in their room, they're not hearing it. My unit was the only unit that the music was playing in. Now there's a vent in my unit. And my prediction was that they were upstairs in their living room, played the radio, and they put the speakers, or a speaker, face down on the vent that connects my unit to their living room. And they just left the radio on and played it all day, all night long, 24/7. They reduced the volume just enough so that it wouldn't disturb them, but I would hear it all the time. I was like, wow. I was like, wow, they are determined, boy. So anyway, after probably a few days of this going on nonstop, I already have a hard time sleeping. This was just making it even harder, just hearing the radio playing all the time. And I'm not even the kind of person that can like have the TV on while I'm trying to sleep. Like the TV has to be off, like all of that. So it was just a nightmare. And I didn't know what to do. So of course, I'm trying with them. So I go and I knock on the door. As soon as I knock on the door, I don't hear the music playing in my unit because I left the door open. I don't hear it playing. They turn it off. So I open it. I'm like, listen, could you guys turn off the music you guys are playing upstairs, because it's literally going right into my unit. I hear it all day long, all night long. And he's like, oh, what music? I was like, oh. I wanted to slap him so hard. I'm like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Soon as he closes the door and I go back down into my room, the music turns back on again. I had no clue what to do, so I actually ended up calling the police. Now, noise disturbances is one thing, but it doesn't usually apply to the people within the house. It usually applies to like, okay, if your neighbor's playing their music too loud and it's after a certain time, you can like report a noise complaint or something like that. But I was just like at my wit's end. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I called the cops. And I hate that I had to do this, wasting taxpayer dollars and their time, but I had to do it. I didn't know what else to do. So I called them. I got this lady on the phone, one of the officers, and I'm like, I'm really sorry to have to do this. So I'm like, is there any way that you could just send a couple of officers here? Maybe if they see the police, they'll smarten up and, you know. And she's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna send somebody out to you. So the cops arrive. He's like, okay, you know what? Wait here. We're gonna go up to the front and we're gonna see if we can talk some sense into them. I'm like, please. Then they talk to them. They're probably up there for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops, not even that long. And the officer comes back down and he says to me, one of the officers came back down while the other one was still talking to the person upstairs. And he comes down and he's like, it's just a really tricky situation because in this case, we can't really stop them from playing the music when the noise complaint is coming from within the house. And I'm like, I know, but I really had nothing, like I didn't know what else to do. And he's like, oh, hopefully this will like shake them up. No one really wants the cops constantly coming to their house, so hopefully they will stop. For about 2 days, it was good. They weren't playing the music anymore. I was like, okay, maybe this worked, great. No. Within a couple of days, they started playing it again. And I said, okay, there's nothing else I can do. So I said, you are not going to get to me. I went to Shoppers Drug Mart and I bought myself some earplugs. And I put those bad boys in, and you should see me sitting on my bed with my earplugs in, doing my homework or sleeping or whatever the case may be. And that's what I did. Because the next date for the hearing was a month away from the first one. So I was like, just hang in there, Sarah. Just gather more ammunition. This is just more ammunition to show that what they're talking about is lies. Because if I'm this great, sweet tenant, why would they be doing this to me? At this point, I remember sitting in my room and I spoke to my boyfriend at the time about this too, and I was like, I started, it was the first time that I started to feel uncomfortable in a sense of I didn't feel safe in my apartment or my room, because I'm thinking, if this kid is really willing to go to these lengths, like I don't know how far he's willing to take this. And it's not worth my life, and it's not worth my anything coming to, like, any harm coming to me, you know what I mean? So at that point I was like, you know what, my thought came, and I think my boyfriend was the one that mentioned it. He was like, I think you need to change the locks. And obviously legally you're not supposed to change the locks on a rental unit, you can't do that. But at that point my boyfriend was saying, like, I don't feel comfortable with you being here knowing that he could just come into this room when you're not here, when you're here. Like, I just don't feel comfortable, and I didn't feel comfortable either. We went to, I think it was like Home Depot or something, and we bought a lock and we changed it. Now here's the blessing. Even though I'm not supposed to do it, he can't tell the tenant board that I did it, because he shouldn't, if he tried to get into my apartment without my knowledge, that's the only way he's gonna know that I changed the lock. And he can't go and tell people that he's entering my apartment without my permission. So I knew that in that case I would be fine until we had the next hearing. And I just made sure that every time I left that house and every time I came in, I didn't look flustered. I didn't want him to think I was uncomfortable or anything, because in my mind I just felt like I don't want him to think that he's like getting under my skin. And part of the reason why I stay there, because I know probably a lot of you are thinking, Sarah, why didn't you just leave? It's the principle. At that time, I was actually in the process of looking for something, because obviously I wasn't gonna stay there. But I didn't want to leave because he made me leave, right? I didn't want him to think that it was because of the stuff that he was doing or because he won that I left. I wanted to leave after this whole labor board thing was done, and then I left on my terms, right? Part of me did it because I didn't want to give him that satisfaction. And the other part of me did it because I wanted to hopefully just leave a bad taste in his mouth so that he thinks twice before trying to do this to other people. Because a lot of times people will do things to people because they know they can get away with it. But sometimes you have to be that one person that makes it really hard for them to get away with the foolishness, so that it makes them think twice before trying to do it again. Now, I don't know if it worked. I don't know if he ever did it again to anybody else, but I felt good knowing that I didn't let him just like push me out like that. It kind of ended in an interesting way, and I feel like everything happens for a reason. God is protecting me, God is protecting you, even when you don't know, when you're not able to see what's coming your way. God, the universe, whatever you believe in, is able to see it before you. And sometimes things happen to protect you, because the universe knows you're not gonna do it. God knows my heels were in. I'm not letting this kid push me out, because it's not right. Anyway, I am the kind of person that when it comes to dates, I don't forget dates. If I know I have to be somewhere on the 14th, on the Tuesday, on the Wednesday, it's in my calendar, I know it, and it's done. So the next hearing was supposed to be, say for example, Tuesday, March 14th or whatever. I put that in my calendar, I was good. I never miss dates. I went to the tenant board place for the appointment on the 14th. But at the time, I had thought the 14th was the Wednesday. No. The 14th was actually the Tuesday. Yeah. So I missed it. I missed the hearing. And because I missed it, they ruled in their favor. Not because they were right, but because they were there. And that's what they requested. And I didn't show up to contest it. My heart... Like, I walked out of there and I got in my car and I just bawled my eyes out. I was just so upset. I cried in my car. And it's not because, obviously, I missed the appointment. It's my fault, but it's because I was thinking of that smug look on that kid's face, thinking he had won, thinking that all of his little devious tactics worked and he got it. And in essence, he did win, but it's only because I didn't show up. Started my car and I started driving, and as I was driving, I was thinking, you know what, Sarah? This is not a coincidence. This is not just happening for no reason. This is happening for a reason. God sees something that you don't see, and you yourself were talking about the other day that you don't know how far he's gonna push this, what lengths he will go to get you out. And you know you would have won this, and the judge would have ruled in your favor, and you would have went home, and God knows what this kid would have done. So maybe it's for the best that you didn't show up, and it's time to go. I composed myself, I got myself together, like it was during the day, so I could put my glasses on. I got myself together. Fabulous self. And I parked my car and I got out and I walked and I held my head up high. Because I know he's always watching me. He's always watching me. And I didn't want him to even think that I missed it or whatever. And I went. And I got in and all that to say I ended up moving. But here's the beautiful thing about all that. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what happened to him and his mom in that place. But the next place that I found, tell me how, I got the angel of landlords. Oh my goodness, the best landlord I've ever had in my life. In the end, I got great karma and I continue to get great karma. God only knows what that kid has gone through in those last 10 years. But yeah, that's my story. Tell me your story. If you have an interesting story, go ahead. If you've had a similar experience, I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching. And I got way more story times to come, so make sure if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And don't forget to like this so that more people can find it, and it helps me out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.